Private Pile, I think we finally found something that you do well.
Sir, yes, sir.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. We're on the road right now, but we got to talk about this. The New York Times just dropped a massive bombshell story, finally ripping open the mysterious life of Matthew Thomas Crooks, the man who nearly changed the course of Western civilization by destroying it. It would have led to civil war if President Trump had been killed in that field in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, 2024. Thank God it didn't happen, but we still know absolutely nothing about one of the single most consequential people of the last 100 years, Matthew Thomas Crooks. Nobody's released any information. We know nothing about him. We know he was smoked on a rooftop, and then his body was cremated like faster than a family pet, and nobody got a toxicology report. Nobody's seen anything. So what is the story of Matthew Thomas Crooks? Finally, we're getting a little bit of information. Not from our federal government, sadly, who has all of the information, has his phone, has all of his records, raided his house, but from the New York Times, which, okay, fine, consider the source. The New York Times released, and it's a good report, a full breakdown of everything they know, according to months of research on Matthew Thomas Crooks. We have new revelations about Matthew Thomas Crooks, and here they are. He was actually a very good student. They have his SAT scores. His SAT scores showed that he was like a borderline genius. He scored like a 1550 on the SAT, which is a near perfect score. This is actually a very smart kid. He was an engineering student. And he's very quiet, mild-mannered. And they even have a video of him, the first new video of Matthew Thomas Crooks. It's him like talking about how he wants to bake with his family, how much he likes making Thanksgiving dinner and baking Christmas cookies with his family. Check this out.
Hello, my name is Thomas Crooks, and it has always been my passion to create and build things of my own. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my academic goals, my passion for building things, my love of cooking with my family, and lastly, what I hope to achieve in this course.
The kid in school showed no signs of like major radicalization and graduated, again, as what his teachers describe as a great student. You know, kind of a model student. Then he enrolled in community college, and he started to search through lots of news websites. And it seems like a broad range of news websites. New York Times said it was CNN, New York Times, Fox News. And then he kept going back to the Trump archives of Trump's White House, which was very strange. He started to talk about how we needed new election systems in the country. That's like the first time he got overtly political, other than donating $15 on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. He donated to a left-wing cause on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration. Then, and this is where it gets very interesting, the New York Times reports that in college, in his second year in community college, Matthew Thomas Crooks, then 20 years old, began to rapidly research firearms and explosives. Again, he started talking a little bit more about how we needed to be kinder in politics and how we didn't need to be so divisive. And then he started to research how to make explosives. Nitromethylene was found inside of his room, and he wanted to get gallons of it. This is an explosive substance. And when the feds finally raided his house, they found a 50 caliber ammunition box, just a metal frame box, and then a fuse, and then a gallon jug of nitromethylene. So this would be the makings of a rudimentary bomb, and we know that he did have rudimentary bombs with him on the day of the assassination. And so what you're looking at here is somebody who started then getting very interested in firearms, going to the gun range a lot, and then started effectively making homemade bombs. You assume that the family would start to have some problems here. Like, we know nothing about his parents, nothing about why like he was allowed to continue on like this. They live in a 1,000 square foot house, so it's not like you do this in secret, right? And so these are then real questions that need to be asked. Why had the federal government not release the contents of his cell phone? Who is he speaking with? It's not like you can go and Google search, like how to make these devices. You by the way, don't do that, right? Don't do that. You'll get a visit from the feds. It's totally illegal. You're not allowed, that's a giant warning sign. How was he able to get these plans? How is he able to figure this kind of stuff out? How is he able to, even in a rudimentary sense, make these explosives? You know, you have the same question of the January 6th bomber, right? It's like the same obvious question. But more importantly, like, who was he communicating with? The New York Times report says that for one demonstration in a collegiate class, Matthew Thomas Crooks didn't have any adult friends. He was asked to bring adult friends in for an interview in an oral class, and he explained that he only knew his parents, and those were his only adult friends. The full takeaway from the New York Times article, it sort of describes like a loner that spiraled and was radicalized. It doesn't explain like how, but that he just started getting really violent. The only like tip, I suppose, that they give of their research as to what might have happened is that he started to Google search about mental health and depression. So this is something that he was like, looking for, right? Help with depression. How do I get out of my depression? Things like that. That was cached inside of a bunch of search for firearms and then explosives. And gun ranges, which is the gun range that he trained at with the DHS agents, which everybody thinks is very strange. And I still do. The big takeaway here is, why the hell haven't the feds said anything? Why have we got nothing from federal agencies? They have his phone. They have his text messages. They have his emails. They have everything. They have access to all of it. And we've received no official report. No official report. Just this new information about the bomb squad, some of his queries on Google, and some of his background, where it just seems like in the year 2023, 2024, the kid just snapped. And that seems to be the conclusion of the New York Times. He just snapped, and he nearly changed the course of history and all of Western civilization. So that's the takeaway from this report. Some new video. Get it all out there. My final statement is this. Cash and Dan Bongino were on TV, and they said, well, there's really nothing there, right? There's no bombshells there. This was the comment.
You know what, Maria? Cash is not kidding. We've been personally briefed extensively on every single detail, nugget, tendril of this case. One is actively in court right now, so out of respect for the case, it's probably more appropriate that I stay quiet on that. However, I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth, and whether you like it or not is up to you. If there was a big explosive there, right? Given my history as a Secret Service agent and my personal friendship as a director does with the president, give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. There in some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there. And I know people, I get it. I understand. It's not there. If it was there, we would have told you.
So if that's the case, then just release everything. Let us read all of his text messages. Let us see all these encrypted apps. He had all these encrypted. The reason the New York Times says it was hard to find anything about him is that he worked on encrypted apps all the time. They were encrypted apps, foreign. But don't tell me the government doesn't have access to that. I'm not stupid. I wasn't born yesterday. They definitely do. The government does. So release all of that. And again, that's the best medicine. Show us everything. Let people come to their own conclusions. And again, working on the internet every day, you'd be shocked how people can put things together that you might have missed. All right. Anyway, that's the report. Here's Fox News breaking it down a little bit more. The truth is out there, guys. Gotta go find it and keep pushing for it. I wish that this report had come from the federal government. All right. I wish we didn't have to wait. I wish this report had come from the FBI, DHS, and not from the New York Times. We'll be waiting for all that information. Okay. Here's Fox News.
We're learning more now about the man who tried and failed to assassinate President Trump in that now infamous Butler, Pennsylvania campaign rally. The New York Times publishing new details on what the paper calls his quiet unraveling. Alexis McAdams has more details out of New York for us. Hey, Alexis.
Hey, Jillian. Well, if you can believe it, it's been nearly a year since President Trump was up on that stage in Butler and was nearly killed. And according to the New York Times, they have some new details about Thomas Crooks, the shooter. His family telling police he was acting strange for months. Like what? Well, they say he was dancing around his room late at night and talking to himself. And not much is known, though, about Crooks, but new video obtained by the New York Times shines a light on some of his hobbies and things he liked to do with his family. Listen.
Hello. My name is Thomas Crooks, and it has always been my passion to create and build things of my own. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my academic goals, my passion for building things, my love of cooking with my family, and lastly, what I hope to achieve in this course.
But according to this report, in the days before police say Crooks climbed up on a rooftop in Butler, Pennsylvania and shot President Trump, he was focused on using an online alias to order guns and continuously researching President Trump. Documents, Jillian, obtained by the New York Times show he made dozens of gun-related purchases, and he even bought supplies to make bombs, the police later finding that inside of his closet. The New York Times also gained access to logs of Crooks' internet activity. About 1 week before the shooting, he searched this: how far was Oswald from Kennedy? Other searches show he was focused on Trump, Biden, guns, and depression. Crooks did not take Trump's life that day, but he did kill this man. He was a father and a husband. Corey Competor, a volunteer fireman who was at the rally. His family says they feel like at this point there should be more information on Crooks, but FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino tells Fox there's no bombshells to share.
If there was a big explosive there, right? Given my history as a Secret Service agent and my personal friendship as a director does with the president, give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. In some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there.
Competor's wife says she'd like an update. She hasn't received one in months. She hopes Trump can get to the bottom of it, Jillian.